bothers me now. I was just tickled that I wasn't in it. But you can see pictures, the aftermath. You can see pictures of our soldiers on the ground that got sprayed.
I was one of the last ones of Burke County to be fortunate enough to get their draft letter. Welcome, we need you, and you show up for the draft in Omaha, and I think it was in December of '65 that I had to come back and go through the draft. Just turned 18. I think the draft changed my life. And then I had a sister that lived in Longmont, Colorado. So I went down, went through the interview. I was working in a clean lab for Beech Aircraft, and they had a subcontract for North American. And North American was a builder for spacecrafts. I really didn't know at the time. I worked on the Apollo 8 and all the Apollo programs. When I got drafted, working on those parts for the Apollo program and then for the lunar excursion module, they asked me what I had done in civilian life, and I told them I worked on liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen cells. And so they put me in a career field of cryogenic fluid production, making hydrogen and making nitrogen and making liquid oxygen. So I went to a air base in Cape Cod, started producing the liquid fuel for Bomart missiles. And that was back in the Cold War, where we had 56 ground-to-air quarter-ton nuclear bombs. From there, I wanted to go overseas, so I put in for England, and I did. I got it. I got the transfer. And when I got over there, there was no use for my career field over there, so I crossed over into refrigeration and air conditioning and went to work on a photo reconnaissance squadron, and took care of a mobile photo lab of all the air conditioning and environmental control for all the film developers and that type of thing. We went to Morón, Spain several times, and out of those two bases we flew reconnaissance over the Mediterranean Sea in Vietnam. You know, it didn't really bother me until those airplanes would come back. We'd develop the film, and then we'd take a look at what the terrain was in Vietnam, and had foliage everywhere. We'd go back and run the same film strip again 2 days later, and it was nothing living there. Biggest problem of being a veteran. When we went in there, we were nothing but kids.
You have no idea what life's about yet.
No, and people don't respect that. I think that's the part that bothers me more than anything. But we were nothing but just young kids. But we had to do a job. We done it well. People don't realize how devastating of some of that stuff that we did over there. And people don't respect it. When you see the first set of those pictures that would come back off those airplanes, it was
it was green and it was foliage and everything, but they'd go back 2 days later and run the same thing, and there was nothing left but just the branches and just the sticks sticking up out of the ground. Everything was dead, and you could see our men walking around in there. You know, we didn't have movie films, we didn't have movie videos, but we had stationary. But you could tell that they were our men. Those cameras that were on those airplanes were so distinct and so high tech. It was interesting, and that's why I enjoyed looking at those, just to see how in the world could you set up there 2,000, 2,500 feet above the ground and be able to see if that guy was laying on his back or laying on his front. You know, how could you tell that it was American or Viet Cong? But now it's all coming out that, you know, we didn't care. We didn't care who was in the trees. We didn't care who was in there. We sprayed them all. These kids today, they're just as lost as I am. Just as lost as a lot of people. They don't know what they want to do. But going to the service gives you that direction. I'm glad I went. I joined the American Legion when I got home. I am now the post commander for our Legion here in town. I've been the post commander for almost 20 years now. I enjoy it, giving some of these elderly veterans something to remember by, have somebody that they can talk to. We have a special connection. I got a grandson that absolutely, he is so involved in wanting to be in the service. The reason he likes to be around his grandfather is because I'm the only one that knows. The hardest part of being a post commander is the funeral part. Knowing that part of that funeral program, you have to fold the flag and then you present it to the family. And then it's my job to order up the honorary salute. And then hear that horn play taps. I've never got over it. I have a lot of respect for that old flag. I vowed that I would never leave this country again. It's just I have a passion for veterans. That particular one is a fallen soldier. I make sure that the flag is put out on Main Street every holiday, every day that it's supposed to be flown. The flag is supposed to be seen at all times. I once gave a speech about patriotism and the flags, how to present a flag, how to fold a flag. And my last statement was, and it is now, if God didn't want me to have my heart full of patriotism,
Why was I born on Flags Day? 14th June of 1947.